Disasters come in many forms: floods, fires, terrorism, blackouts, earthquakes. People are forced into survival mode without warning. Even the best prepared community can be devastated in minutes. Sometimes our infrastructure is crippled or destroyed. The resilience demonstrated time and time again following even catastrophic events is a testament to the human spirit. The public sector response includes law enforcement, fire, emergency medical services, and even the National Guard. But to best manage a disaster, everyone, public and private sector, must be ready to respond.
After 9/11, there was much more focus on public-private partnerships. And there was a group that I participated in called National Infrastructure Advisory Council that looked at how we respond to critical events and identified a gap in the private sector was missing in what was then the fledgling National Incident Management System. And that group made recommendations to include the private sector.
The National Response Framework is the guide that defines response roles for all levels of government and non-governmental organizations like the Red Cross and Salvation Army. In 2008, when this document replaced the National Response Plan, the private sector was specifically identified as a crucial response partner. That's why it's important to establish a public-private partnership before a disaster strikes. In Minnesota, the early vision for a public-private partnership was simple, with two primary goals: information sharing and resource support.
Public-private partnerships has been around emergency management as long as I've been in it, since about 1980. We didn't necessarily call it public-private partnerships, but back in the floods, in the Red River Valley floods of 1997, I was the operations chief during that response, and we needed to get sandbags that had already been filled and utilized in southern Minnesota up to the Red River Valley. So at that time we thought, how can we do this most efficiently? So what we did was we called the Minnesota Truckers Association, and we got volunteer truckers and their trucks to take those sandbags up to the Red River Valley. We didn't call that a public-private partnership. That was companies volunteering staff and resources.
From a private sector perspective, the ideal partnership required a seat at the table in the state's Emergency Operations Center, or EOC, to ensure effective communications. The public sector wasn't always receptive to that idea.
There still is some perception that private industry doesn't really understand what our needs are. Private industry is trying to get in so they can sell their products, so they can sell their service. And we need to make sure that all across the United States we understand that that's a perception that we need to break.
Today, this seat at the table exists. In Minnesota, the State Homeland Security and Emergency Management Team works with InfraGard, a not-for-profit, FBI-sponsored organization with 86 chapters and over 40,000 members nationwide. InfraGard members represent a variety of businesses, academic institutions, as well as state and local law enforcement officials. The mission of InfraGard is to prevent hostile acts against the United States and ensure infrastructure protection. On August 1, 2007, the 35W Interstate Bridge across the Mississippi River in downtown Minneapolis collapsed during rush hour, killing 13 and injuring 145 people.
I believe it was actually in the wake of the 35W bridge collapse when the concept for a public-private partnership in the upper Midwest really gained traction.
Obviously there were a lot of agencies coming in after the bridge collapse, and the Navy was one of them, bringing in the dive team. And they were looking for some space near where the bridge collapsed. Word of that got to somebody in our InfraGard chapter, and we put out an email to our membership, which I think was perhaps 600 or 700 strong at that time. And we sent the email out asking if anybody had any space near the scene that they could donate. And within probably 15 to 20 minutes, we had at least a dozen responses of people willing to provide space for the dive site. And that's really what got us thinking about other ways we could help in situations like that.
With consensus among the FBI, InfraGard, and the state, the formal partnership was established and named P2CAT for Public-Private Coordination and Action Team. The time was right to pursue this new collaboration as planning was underway for the 2008 Republican National Convention, which was held in St. Paul. As a national special security event, the State Emergency Operations Center was a key part of the massive convention planning and operations. InfraGard mobilized to find the right representatives to occupy that seat at the table in time for the RNC.
During the Republican National Convention, that really was our beta test. That was the first chance we had to try out just exactly how this communication was going to work and how this partnership was going to work.
We had to go out and find the right people, and I'll tell you, we were able to come up with some really good people who were willing to donate their time and their energy.
Being that they hold about 82% of all resources, the private sector was a very valuable place for us to start looking for resource management. You gave us people who were energetic, who were enthusiastic, who really wanted to go out there and build a collaboration.
The initial challenges were finding the people who had the interest and the bandwidth to go in and actually do some of this work. There's a lot of work involved. It's not as easy as it looks.
In terms of this particular group, there's three things that are key. One is they have an appreciation and understanding of emergency management because we're working within the State Emergency Operations Center. And with that, there's skills, knowledge, and abilities that we have to bring to the table.
One of the main goals of P2CAT is communication, a value that permeates Homeland Security efforts. From the See Something, Say Something campaign to private sector seats in EOCs across the country, there are many opportunities to proactively protect our critical infrastructure.
The benefit of a physical presence within the state EOC is that we get a first-hand, unfiltered level of communication of the needs of the state as well as the individual members involved in the emergency response.
In addition to information sharing, P2CAT provides resource support through the logistics branch of the State Emergency Operations Center.
We were charged with the responsibility to do, among other things, obtain a generator for a city up north, and our group was able to mine its contacts, the InfraGard contacts, and use those contacts to find individuals who could put us in contact with an organization that had a generator, another organization that had a crane, and then a truck to put under that generator. And we got that generator to where it needed to go.
The state of Minnesota formally recognized the InfraGard P2CAT as its 2010 Outstanding Private Partner.
The Homeland Security and Emergency Management Awards of Excellence are given to individuals and organizations that exemplify the purpose of emergency management. Since the partnership between P2CAT and HSEM was established in 2007, the leaders of this team have trained with us and become an integral partner in the State Emergency Operations Center Logistics Section. During 2010, they provided resource support to many areas of Minnesota, and their members have volunteered over 500 hours for state EOC activations, training, meetings, and public events. Their accomplishments are too numerous to mention, and their partnership is priceless.
I thought what a great opportunity to do something that's really a first, you know, for many, and here in the state of Minnesota, let alone the country.
The FBI was very proud to have been associated with the early stages of the P2CAT program.
From a state of Minnesota perspective, we couldn't be prouder to be affiliated with the P2CAT operation and have them in our home, if you want, at the State Emergency Operations Center.